Hello and welcome to the Limitless Coach Success podcast. I'm your host, Sabine Matharu, and I'm thrilled to embark on this journey with you. As a dedicated coach, course creator, and consultant, I've had the pleasure of serving incredible women for over a decade through my flagship program, Limitless Coach Success Formula. Now, with this podcast, I am excited to extend that support to a broader audience, and we're exploring strategies for unlocking your full potential, navigating the challenges of entrepreneurship, and achieving the success that you envision. Now, this podcast is a dialogue. It is definitely a space where we can learn from each other, we share insights, and celebrate victories, both big and small. Be sure you check out my podcast host page, where I have added a range of incredible free resources designed to equip you with the tools that you need to thrive in your entrepreneurial journey. I will obviously put the link below the podcast and the video as well. So you are absolutely in the right place today if you are a seasoned entrepreneur or you are starting out on your path, because this podcast, we will actually help you refine what that means and make you also unstoppable. For that reason, I have invited a very special guest today, Nat van Zee. I'm super excited to have her because she actually coaches high achievers, perfectionists, and people pleasers through their blind spots, breakdowns, and burnouts. And I'm super excited because I think we're going to talk about something that is on a lot of entrepreneurs' minds, and this is all about working through our fears, especially when it comes to the visibility, facing our inner critic. Perhaps you have a fear of being judged. It's really about how do we get out of that. So firstly, huge welcome to Nat, and I'd like you to just give you a brief introduction, if you don't mind, and then we'll dive right into the points.
Sure. Well, I'm so pleased I'm on the show. Thank you so much. I recently did a workshop where I was coaching someone on their vision they wanted to create. And the thing is that what I've noticed with a lot of my clients, the moment they said bold, audacious goals, their fears come up. It could be self-doubt. It could be fear of failure. It could be fear of being seen. So with my client, she was like, well, what's your biggest one that's stopping you now? And it was her fear of being seen. And I think this is like a really core one with a lot of people, and particularly when you are wanting to grow, step up your career or step into your leadership. Because as you are being seen more, then obviously you are opening up to lots of feedback, right? Positive and negative. Mm-hmm. And a lot of high achievers are often from their inner desire really driven for approval. So this might be subconscious. So like you are gathering a lot of credentials, status, maybe a nice car and clothes, because really what you're wanting is to belong and to be praised for all these achievements. And that is actually like the weakest, the thing that brings up a lot of issues, right? So what I help people do is, instead of suppressing that fear, I'll actually invite them to just express it, one-on-one. So really give it a voice. What is this fear? What is the deeper desire of this fear? And usually it's it wants safety for you. Because we are our old brain really doesn't like change. It wants to keep things the same. It wants to things be predictable. So the moment you're looking for something that, is new and a big goal, this fear will come up. And the way that I help people to deal with that is to express it, then be located. Where do you feel this in the body? Like, if it's like anxiety, like can you actually locate it? So then, I might ask people to breathe into it. What happens when you breathe into it? And then I get them to connect to that feeling. So, okay, so if this was a friend of yours, and it wants to keep, because a lot of the time it's like this fear wants to keep you safe. Could you allow this fear to be there? So instead of suppressing it, just allow it to be there. And then and I give it the love and the safety that you actually need. So it's actually learning to integrate this part of you. And then we might do some forgiveness on judging that fear. And by doing that, it seems counterproductive, but actually by doing that, it's like a healing process. So you start to actually, instead of condemning that thing, you start to give it love. Actually, you give yourself love, and then it shifts. So anything that we ever want to stop or reject, the moment we allow it and we give ourselves compassion and acceptance, it stops having that grip and that hold on us. So it's the process that I help people through is really about, expression. So expressing your emotions, accepting it, and then when we're in that, and then it's about aligned action. So once you have gone through that, from that new place where you've changed your perception with this block, with this fear, what feels aligned to you now to really ground this? So with my client, it was like, okay, I could maybe do a video where I talk about my fitness regime, because it's not out to her client base, but it's something like that's a passion that she feels like it's a step in the right direction. So, yeah, that's kind of, in a nutshell what I do.
Wow. And what would you say when we think about entrepreneurs? I mean, what fears would you say come up as the most?
Fear of being judged.
Mm-hmm.
Fear of being judged. Like, say you have a team, and a lot of the time when people kind of like go up to the top, right?
Yeah.
They might not have all the resources to actually, they feel like an imposter. So they've got to this high level, but they can't share their vulnerabilities, right? They might not know how to do something, but then they feel like to say that would be a failure, would be seen as weakness. So they don't allow themselves to do that, which can be really lonely. Or say they've had some bad feedback and maybe need to have a chat with an employee or whatever, and they're too scared to really give them proper direction because maybe it didn't go well in the past. So the moment you get to a certain place in corporate or in entrepreneurs and you are afraid of taking leadership or like expressing what in your vision is really important, then you're losing your power. And then you actually are compromising how far you can go, how you can fulfill your potential, how far you can, how successful you can be.
Wow. That's quite deep. As I was about to say, that's how they sabotage themselves, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's that usually stems from early childhood.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not something new. Like 95% of what we do, think, and how we are is subconscious. So in the first 7 years of our life, we are being trained by our environment, by our caretakers, how to be in situations. So we may have developed certain coping mechanisms. So for high achievers, being a good girl or a good boy, right, is like you've trained yourself to seek approval, so you belong, right? You belong to your community, you belong to your parents, so you are loved. And then as you go through life and as you go through your career, right, you're still actually acting from that child self. But now you are given, like, now you need to take risks. Now you need to take, lead strategy, like, and that is still with the programming of like a 6-year-old. So what is so key for entrepreneurs is actually do the reprogramming of their mindset. So actually become aware where their subconscious blocks are. And this will usually happen if somebody's triggered, right? Mm-hmm. So I often work with people when they maybe have a burnout or they have a breakdown or a break up. And that is the time, or even when you're feeling depressed, which you could see as deep rest, which is a point where most people start to reevaluate their life. What am I doing? What is not working? How can I change this? But the key thing is, like, if you would just get the insight before that massive breakdown happened, right? It would be so much better. So I think whether you're in corporate, like, what's usually missed is like we're doing all the education for the skill sets, right? The exterior skill sets, like maybe how to lead a team, but you really need soft skills. You really need to know how to communicate. And by doing your inner work and by befriending your fears, by becoming aware of what is driving you, is it fear or love? You're then also becoming a better leader and a better communicator. Because if you are not scared of getting some bad feedback, then you don't project that fear onto the people that you're working with. Mm. And, I know, for instance, like when people are being in situations where they're being bullied, right? The people that bully always do this from a place where they've been hurt. So they haven't done their inner work. Now you have a choice whether you take that personally or whether you can see, okay, this is not about me. This is about them. Mm. That takes a lot of self-awareness and a higher position. And we are not trained to do that. Nobody tells us that at school, right? Yeah. How to do these interpersonal communication with people that aren't nice or aren't maybe at don't appear to seek the best for you or your team. So, and the way I understand this, these people that trigger you, they are actually mirroring some unhealed aspect in you that needs attention. And that then becomes a teaching opportunity or a healing opportunity for you to face that. Mm. And in my personal life, that is how I got to where I am now. I had a breakdown in 2012 where I was judged. And, I'm like, I was raised as a people pleaser and a perfectionist. And, they didn't judge me on the work I did. They judged me on my personality. And that hurt me so hard because I felt completely misunderstood. And I thought it was really unfair. So I was like blaming my industry. I was blaming the economy. I was blaming all the other things. And then I realized I can't change any of those things. I can only change myself. And that's when I started to really dig deep and think about, okay, what can I do? And I started to look at my thoughts, my lifestyle, who I was, hanging out with, the people that I was around, what information was I actually feeding my mind? So I did this long process of really stripping things back, only listening to inspiring content, doing my own therapy, my own coaching, doing mindset training. And that is what I see a lot of people when they are in that place where they're really struggling. It's about letting go of some of the baggage that you've taken on, right? The baggage either from, whether it's caretakers or whether it's the culture or whatever, wherever you've outsourced your power to. And it's like stripping off, some clothes that you can just put on a new set of clothes. You can create a new identity. I make it sound simpler than it is, but in essence, that is what it's like, right? Because as I shared with you about the NASA George Land study, they basically they created this study and they wanted to find out what would make the most innovative, creative engineer. And the test was quite simple. So they realized they could give it to children. And 98% of 4 to 5-year-olds were considered a genius. And as they were going through school, that percentage dropped. And then they gave the same test to 280,000 adults. And only 2% were seen as genius. Now, you can obviously make your own, you can think about why would that be, but that is, we go through school. We obviously have a lot of different influences around us. And I think really what tells us is like, go back to being a child. Go back to that kind of out of the box thinking, that creative thinking, which you are at essence. So if you are in your 40s or however old you are, it's just letting go of all that, the outdated beliefs or the beliefs that served you when you were a 6-year-old, and go back to how you were born. And I like, that's a bit like the ego essence conversation. We are born with an essence that is already whole. It knows, right? And it's your that intuitive voice. And a lot of entrepreneurs know, about 80%, I think this is a Harvard study, said 80% of entrepreneurs were most successful by following their intuition. And that is not what that is what you were born with. So that's tapping into that inner voice, and usually it's a feeling, a gut feeling, right? So I think as a leader, what you need to, or entrepreneur, you need to really be very discerning. What do you allow into your energy field? What opinions, what information. And it's really about centering yourself. And this can be done with mindfulness or like any kind of practice, whether it's sport or going into nature, that brings you back to being calm, and then make your decisions from calmness. So when you're facing your fear, you are in a different place. And then there are like the examples, you can take yourself through a process, what is really aligned with me? What is, if I were at the end of my life, what would make me feel really fulfilled? What would be meaningful to me? Because most of the times, all those things that you're worrying about now don't matter then anymore, or 6 years from now, right?
It's a really, really good exercise, that one. It's like, imagine you're on your deathbed and you look back on your life and it's like, what have I achieved? Where have I held back? What stopped me? And then, okay, say you only got like one day to live. How would I show up? how would I be what would I be doing differently? And I think this is where you can inject that fun again, and that purpose, and that just having a bit of a lighter kind of way of doing things, because I think everything's so serious, and paying the bills and going to work and doing this and doing that, it just feels really, really heavy. And I think we need to inject this lightness into our work and our life again. And I think that's a really
I think,
great way to do it.
I think play is super important. And also, George Clooney spoke about this. He said, take risk and don't be afraid to fail. Because if you are 60 and, you look back at your life and you say, I wished I'd done these things, but I was too scared, you're never going to find out whether you were any good at it.
100%.
Or whatever age, I said 60, but I think people are getting much older now, and that also impacts the way you feel, because if you have stopped yourself, then at a certain age, well, then you can get really resentful, right?
So it's not like it's almost like this: wake yourself up now. Don't wait until you're on your deathbed. You don't want to live your life as if you were already dead. I think that's one of the messages.
Absolutely. And be very really tune into what is aligned with you. Not what is aligned with you, not with what you think you should be doing to please others.
Exactly. And something that I learned as well is what's right for you is right for others.
Because if you are happy, then you can actually inspire and people feel good around you.
Absolutely.
Because we're all we're all energetic beings. People feel how another person feels.
Yeah.
So we all influence each other. Yeah.
So with that said, Nat, just going to come to a bit of a close and summary. Maybe you can just tell our listeners where they can find you, and maybe get some more information about the work that you do. I know you work with high achievers. I think every one of us can be and is a high achiever, really, if we are thinking about, right, I'm on my deathbed. How should I be really, I'm looking back at my life. I don't want to be living like a dead person already. And now all of a sudden we're probably jumping into this, right, okay, I want to become a high achiever. Tell them, where can they find you? And I think you got also some demo that you can link some things under this podcast as well.
Wonderful. I would say, well, go to my website, Van Zee Being. So that's VANZEE, and then being is in wellbeing.com, and /contact. People can contact me. I work with people that really want to change. So if they've listened to this conversation and oh my God, I need some help, that's how I can work with you, because everything that I do is self-led. So if you have a burning desire to, up level your mindset, or if there are fears, or I'm a therapist as well. So I'm a hypnotherapist and an IFS therapist. So I do a lot of deep work. But for me, it's really important to combine that with coaching. So I believe that unless we work, with, whatever is subconscious, and then it's about really acting on that insight. So both are important. So I actually have a great coaching demo where I share how I work with people facing on their fear of being visible. So I will share that link with you, and then people can see that. And you can follow me on Instagram or LinkedIn as well.
Thank you very